you guys to check out. All praise be to the Most High God. The Most High God comes first. And I just had something. I know it's like where I'm living, it's very early in the morning, but I want to get a jump on the day. But in addition to that, I want to talk a little bit about real recognizing real. You know what I'm saying? So let's get into it. Terrence Crawford is being interviewed by Skilled Shay, and he talks a little bit about Floyd Mayweather. I don't want you guys to listen to this. This is not a very long stream, but I'm gonna run it. I'm gonna run it back and let you guys hear what he has to say about Floyd. Y'all ready? Let's do this.
He'll run from the strip club. Floyd Mayweather trained. That was so inspiring. How he'll run from the strip club. Like everybody think, just because he out there partying, he don't drink or smoke.
Right.
He'll run from the strip club. He always working, just working. And I just took that from Floyd. Like I just work nonstop.
If I take Floyd Mayweather in his absolute prime, and I take Manny Pacquiao in his absolute prime,
Floyd Mayweather.
Floyd still beats him.
Floyd beat everybody.
You don't believe there is a guy at 140, 147 in the history of boxing that could have beat Floyd in his prime?
I don't know, but it'd be tough. It'd be tough. Floyd, man, that boy, man, that's the GOAT, man. That boy bad. That boy bad.
What makes it? I mean, because I told people this. I said, look at Floyd. I said, Floyd, it's not that he trains. I mean, it's his life, and from the very beginning, he said, I want to be the best. And I look at Floyd. Floyd is not a naturally big man. So Floyd, like you, to get down to 147, you got to drop 20 pounds, 25 pounds.
No, he walked around there.
He ain't 140. He walked around at 150.
Yeah.
So he losing 3 pounds. Floyd going to camp for like 2 weeks, and he done made his weight.
Yeah.
But what makes Floyd the best, so unique, something that we have not seen before?
His defense, his instincts. I think Floyd had the best defense in boxing history.
Better than Sweet Pea?
Yeah, definitely.
Because Sweet Pea has some defense.
But
Sweet Pea had defense, but he in the offense like Floyd.
I say he got more defense than Sweet Pea because he got hit less.
Yes.
Sweet Pea had more head movement, so Sweet Pea was better at slipping punches, making you miss.
Right.
But Floyd on defense, like catch, bam, 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 bam.
Yeah.
Floyd hands down. Then making you pay, catching counter, slipping, like hitting you with shots that you don't see. Like that's where Floyd mastered, hit and not get hit.
And you look at the people that he beat.
Yeah.
I mean, people are just go back and look at those world champions from the Cottos and the Pacquiao, the Ricky Hattons, the Arturo Gottis. I mean, like 20 plus world champs. I ain't talking about they legit world champs.
Yeah.
And he beat them all.
And he was calling for them all in their prime, so I don't know, man. A lot of people, they give him credit now, but they didn't give him credit when he was active. It's kind of like Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
They hated him when he was active. They loved him when he retired and when he got a loss.
Mm-hmm.
They hated Tyson when Tyson was active. But once he got a loss and he retired, then they loved him. Everybody want to see you lose because they want you to feel like you more human.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want you to be, superior to other fighters, especially fighters that they like.
Right.
So they just like, man, I don't like that guy.
Right.
I see so many people on social media say they don't like me.
What?
But don't have a reason.
Right.
I don't like Crawford, but I hope him and Canelo have a good fight. Okay. What is there not to like about it?
Are they? Maybe you run into the same thing, Floyd. I believe a lot of people started watching Floyd fights to see him lose. Do you think people tune in to watch you lose, to see you lose?
Definitely.
But you don't care as long as they buy that pay-per-view, you good.
Hey, I don't care what you think about me. I don't care what you say about me. You're not in the position that I'm in to even be on the same level of me. You know, and I don't say that in a cocky way. I say that in an honest way. Like, people at a basketball game, you talking stuff to LeBron James and you can't do half of what LeBron James. You talking stuff about, you know, Aaron Rodgers and you can't throw a 30-yard football. You know, we criticize athletes,
but we can't
for stuff that we can't even do. And it's just like, man, come on now, man. You come up in here, get punched up in the head, or you try to go across the middle while Brett Favre throw a 90-mile football that'll break your fingers, and Lynch about to come and take your head off.
Right.
You know, so you got to brace because you're about to get hit, the ball going fast, and you expect me to catch it every single time.
Yeah.
You know, people don't understand the things that we do and the things that we take our body through to entertain y'all.
Right.
You know, but y'all disrespect us like we not human. So then when we lash out on one of y'all think, oh, everybody like, oh, you supposed to be professional, but we human at the end of the day.
Floyd paid you the ultimate compliment. He says Terrence Crawford is the best pound-for-pound fighter fighting right now. What's your relationship like with Floyd?
Oh, we got a good relationship. I'm cool with Floyd. You know, Floyd had just randomly called me, you know, asked me how my family doing, asked me how I'm doing, and don't even check on, I don't even talk about boxing.
Wow.
It's just, I ain't want nothing. I was just checking up on you, champ. You know, see how you doing and, you know, making sure everybody good and things like that. And all right, I'll talk to you later.
Wow.
You know, things like that. And that mean more to me than calling me, hey, man, what's up with boxing? You know?
Real talk, man. Guys, let me show you guys something. So I was trying to show you the multi-dimensions of Floyd Mayweather. Unfortunately, it's kind of hard to get all these things put together and done because, you know, a lot of times, it's not easy to show multi-dimensions of a fighter. You know, recently there Manny Pacquiao fought Mario Barrios, and Mario Barrios fought him to a draw. And Pacquiao, don't get me wrong, Pacquiao's a phenomenal fighter, right? But you know, there's great fighters and then there's exceptional fighters. Fighters who, you know, do things in that ring that the average casual fan will not pick up, but is what disciplines other fighters. It's what keeps other fighters in line. You know what I'm saying? So, like I said, Floyd's he's a different caliber of fighter. And, you know, I'm not saying that, like, again, real recognizes real. Terrence Crawford is that kind of fighter too. You know, he's about to take on a tremendous challenge in going up, you know, 2 weight classes. Is it 2? Yeah, it's 2 because he's going up middleweight and then super middleweight, right? Because he's right now at super welterweight. He had at least one fight at super welterweight, right? So he's going up 2 weight classes to fight Canelo Alvarez, who's going to be the bigger fighter in the sense that he's been fighting guys at much heavier weights, right? So I'm looking forward to that fight. Of course, I favor Terrence Crawford to beat Canelo Alvarez. But having said that, that is a hefty task at hand. That's a hefty task at hand. And, much credit to Terrence Crawford for taking that fight. Putting himself, he's really challenging himself in many different ways. You know what I mean? Now, I showed you guys this before, but I want to show you different things here. I'm not going to be able to stop this video, as you guys probably know. These are just little snippets and clips of Floyd fighting Ricky Hatton. And you see how fast Floyd is, right? He's a very fast fighter. All right, let me just put into perspective what you're seeing here, because a lot of y'all don't really understand what you're watching, all right? At the present point in time here, Floyd is fighting Ricky Hatton, but there's a couple things you need to understand what he's doing. He's attacking Ricky Hatton, but he's attacking Ricky Hatton by dropping down in levels most of the time, like he does there. And then after he drops in levels, he's going to either attack Ricky Hatton by shooting a shot at him. He throws a couple of check hooks well, but he throws certain shots at him. Look at him fight on the inside here. This is really good inside work here. Look at him again. He changes the level. Ricky Hatton's really good, and he's really relentless, though. See Floyd go under him. Look at him steal shots now. He's stealing the right hand on Ricky Hatton as Ricky Hatton's coming in. Does it again. Does it again. Uses the check hook to keep Ricky Hatton from coming in. Emmanuel Stewart was hating on Floyd all that time, but see Floyd sneaking in those body shots. Look at another body shot right there. Hatton does it too. Floyd's trying to catch him, team off. There again, that right hand to the body. So they're fighting on the inside there. Check hook by Floyd. He's finding the range now. Hatton's working that body, boy. There's the check hook again. He keeps his jab to keep him at a certain distance. Also disrupt as he's coming in, Ricky Hatton. I'm going to show you the different levels of defense. It's not just footwork that Floyd is using. He's also using offense. He's using offensive and defensive weapons like the check hook. He's using his jab, and then he's stealing with the right hand, so he's changing it up. He's using different lead hands. Sometimes he uses his right hand as a jab or a lead hand itself. He's changing levels, so he'll dip down and under Ricky Hatton. Here he is, positioning himself. This is called tying up and knowing how to tie up. Notice how he's moving side to side in the ring. Check hook again. Look at Ricky Hatton, though. Ricky Hatton is closing the distance, then he works the body, see? But Floyd's tying him up, see? Floyd's tying him up, angling his body, and stealing those right hands. See, he stole a right hand again, and he's clinched up on the inside. Ooh, he got caught with a jab by Ricky Hatton, really popped his head back. Now he broke out in a fight right there. Ricky Hatton is just going at Floyd. Oh, look at that body shot, boy. That spleen shot. Now headshot. This is infighting right now. They're both infighting. Notice how Floyd would block a certain shot. Beautiful stuff. Floyd dipped into that hook. Floyd had to be tough too. And there's those body shots. See how Floyd's angling his body? There you go. He rips a right hand. Rips another right hand. Good body shot by Ricky Hatton. Good body shots by Ricky Hatton. It's a war in there. Steals that jab to the body. Now, notice when Floyd misses with the check hook, how he will go into a clinch. Look at that. Look how he framed him here. He framed Ricky Hatton to get that. Ooh, he steals that right hand. Ricky Hatton just walked into 3 straight shots. This time, Ricky Hatton is bullying Floyd in the corner. And Floyd, he's tough. I get it. Floyd is pretty tough. This was a rough. People don't realize how rough this fight was. Ricky Hatton is a fucking relentless beast, man. Had a hell of a chin, too. Floyd's getting the better of those exchanges right there. The body shot and then the head shot he coming with. Look at the angle he's at to lead that right hand. Hit him with a lead right hand. Come across with a left hook. Then he teed him off. He framed it first. Ricky Hatton caught him with a shot while he was framing it. Then he stole the right hand again. Tried to steal the right hand. He didn't get the timing correctly. See, Floyd dips off to his side, but he's got his guard up as he's dipping. And from that guard, look how he frames it. Look how he frames. Look at that beautiful framing. Woo! There comes Ricky Hatton back at him. They were fighting, man. It was a good fucking fight. They were actually fighting. Double left hook, triple left hook by Ricky Hatton. They're not absolutely landing clean, and the thing about Ricky Hatton was he was rough and rugged. That means he would body you. He would use his size to his advantage. Floyd just solid in there, and the defense is pretty good. Those body shots right there by Floyd. Notice there's no Philly shell here. Floyd's not using the Philly shell. He frames him. See Floyd frame him again. Look how he's framing him with his hand, getting free with one hand. Now he's kind of clinching, locking up Ricky Hatton on the other side, but still working with both hands on the inside. Floyd was working that body, boy. Woo! That was a hard shot. Ricky Hatton took some hard blows there. Oh, man. Look at that check hook. Woo! Hatton got hit again with a pretty heavy shot right there. And Floyd's just working that body. Boom! Oh! You see how offensive Floyd is? Shakur is not like that. Beautiful stuff. Oh, good body shot on the inside there by Floyd, but good body shot by Ricky Hatton. He missed the other shot. Ooh, nice little left hook there by Ricky Hatton. Oh, man, Ricky's walking into that shit now. Oh, shit. He's walking. Oh, look how many body shots Floyd is hitting Ricky Hatton with as well. Look how he dips under the shot. Got him, he frames, and then he catches him again, and he nails him with the other shot. Notice where Floyd's hands are as well. Look how he automatically goes into a clinch. Okay, for some reason, this video just stopped on me. So, but I'm just showing you what kind of fighter Floyd is compared to Shakur Stevenson. Shakur has none of that game that we're talking about, where, you know, that tie-up clinch game. He don't got... You got to understand, man, and don't get me wrong, Shakur is a very sharp fighter, very well-rehearsed fighter. You know, he got the fundamentals down. You know, he's got great balance, you know, quick hands, quick feet, you know, but like I said before, you know, when you look at Floyd, you know, Roy was a great fighter himself, but again, defended too much on his feet, you know, his dexterity with his feet. Floyd is much more of a solid fighter. He takes small steps backward or small steps forward. You know, he don't waste, you know, energy and punches. But I'm gonna tell you all this: Ricky Hatton was a tour de force, and yes, Louis Collazo did hurt him pretty bad coming down the stretch. But who has Louis Collazo not hurt? Go watch Louis Collazo versus Andre Berto. Go watch Louis Collazo versus Shane Mosley. He had Shane Mosley in all kinds of problems. Louis Collazo is that kind of fighter. If you don't suck it up, you're gonna find yourself in trouble with Louis Collazo. Louis Collazo dropped Ricky Hatton early in the fight. If y'all remember. No, sorry. Ricky Hatton dropped Louis Collazo early in the fight. My bad. I just remembered. Louis Collazo is a great fighter, okay? And an underrated fighter. And unfortunately for Louis Collazo, you know, he sometimes did not get the benefit of the doubt in the judge's decision, you know, against prominent fighters. So, I mean, to beat a world champion, the WBA champion at the time was Louis Collazo. To beat Louis Collazo, Ricky Hatton beat him, right? He dropped Louis Collazo early in the fight, but as the fight progressed, Louis Collazo started to find the rhythm of Ricky Hatton, and he started teeing off on him, especially in the championship rounds. Ricky Hatton made it out of that fight, barely alive. Louis Collazo was going to knock him out if it kept on going, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, Ricky Hatton versus Floyd Mayweather. Ricky Hatton was bringing it, okay? And if Floyd was not on his game, Floyd was going to get beaten by Ricky Hatton. And I think a lot of people forget what kind of fighter Ricky Hatton was because Manny Pacquiao put him to sleep. But Ricky Hatton was a bad tour de force, man. One of the baddest 140-pounders, you know, in history. And you remember, he beat Costa Tszyu. All right. And people say, well, it's one-handed Costa Tszyu. His hand wasn't that great. But listen, man, that one-handed Costa Tszyu would have beaten a lot of guys. All right. So Ricky Hatton's tenacity, his unorthodoxness, yet his fundamentals, coming steaming in off a double jab, triple jab, that left hook he had. Ricky Hatton was a tour de force, man. He was knocking out people left, right, and center at 140. Okay, knocked down Louis Collazo at welterweight. He was a tour de force. People say, well, Ricky Hatton was a smaller guy. That's not true. Ricky Hatton came in that fight much bigger than Floyd, and he had some welterweight experience. He become a welterweight champion himself. So it wasn't like Ricky Hatton was just new to this virgin weight class, like Terrence Crawford is going to be with Canelo Alvarez. No. He'd been there. He knew what it took to win that fight. He was bringing the thunder. And Floyd, as you can see when in his fight with Ricky Hatton, you see so many different tools he's using there, from changing levels, right, to using the lead shoulder, to leading off of either hand, to using the check hook, to stepping around. Notice he always step around Ricky Hatton, try to turn Ricky Hatton, right? To offensively coming at Ricky Hatton with shots, framing Ricky Hatton to keep him on certain sides, protecting his body while he's doing that, angling his body a certain kind of way, and gaining in those body shots. And that's how he started breaking down Ricky Hatton. Floyd systematically broke down Ricky Hatton. Systematically also fought Ricky Hatton at Ricky Hatton's game. He was fighting from outside when he could get a chance, but most of the time it was infighting they were doing, rumbling. You kind of half tying up each other, half in a clinch, half popping shots at each other. Ricky Hatton was really good at that, but he didn't expect Floyd to be so good at that. And Floyd showed that he was really good at that game too. So it's those kinds of things that you got to understand. Floyd's not just, one-dimensional. He wasn't just a guy that walked around the ring, running around the ring all the time, or basic like Shakur. Shakur, I don't want to disrespect Shakur again, but Shakur is good at doing the basics, and that's all you need really in boxing to really do well. He's really good at the basics. Like he'll keep a shell, he'll lock up himself in a shell, and he'll try and keep himself behind the shell, and he'll lean back a bit for you to throw a whole bunch of punches on him, and he'll just stand there watching you, right? Floyd wasn't that guy. He wasn't just gonna stay in the shell. No, he can bring something in between. And if you look at Floyd fighting Ricky Hatton, for example, and Ricky Hatton was way more aggressive than William Zepeda, right? Way more aggressive than William Zepeda. But the point I'm trying to make to people is, and a lot of people just don't get it, that there's more dimensions to boxing. Okay, let's take Roy Jones Jr. He'll be good, still relentlessly going at Floyd. I'm seeing a lot of clips out there of him going at Floyd, throwing shots at Floyd and stuff, right? You know what Roy Jones Jr.'s weakness was? The part of his game he did not develop very well, his inside fighting, right? You can't say that about Floyd Mayweather. We've seen Floyd Mayweather rumble inside against Jesus Chavez. He had to rumble inside against Jose Luis Castillo, especially in round 10 of the first fight. You saw him stand there and trade with Jose Luis Castillo on the inside. We saw Floyd Mayweather fight on the inside against Ricky Hatton. In the first fight with Marcos Maidana, he fought on the inside. Marcos Maidana was pushing him to the ropes a lot in that fight. But you saw him rumbling with Marcos. Trading shots, going toe to toe, shot for shot, but still keeping his defense tight enough that when Marcos Maidana throws a couple shots, Marcos Maidana landed quite a lot on him. Miguel Cotto fight, another fight in which Floyd fought on the inside as well as on the outside. See, people don't understand. He would make adjustments to whatever it is you're bringing. He's very versatile, very dynamic, and he's also an offensive weapon at the same time. It's not like Floyd ain't throwing nothing. Floyd do be throwing shit back at you. He'll match you blow for blow, but he'll keep his defense tight while he's matching you. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing that a lot of people didn't understand. And that's why Terrence Crawford is saying what he said to Shannon Sharp from Club Shay Shay. You see what I'm saying? Now, Roy Jones Jr. would like to belittle that. So he comes out and says, Floyd was picking and choosing who he was fighting. It was all about the money for Floyd. And Roy kept on saying a lot of lies that ain't true. Right? I'm going to show you something. Floyd fought in 5 different weight classes. Roy also fought in, I think, 4 different. Okay, I think Roy fought in 5 different weight classes, but he won titles in 4. Okay, if you look, I'm gonna show y'all something. You know what? I'm gonna show y'all something because it's really worth your time. It's worth my time at least to show you guys something that you probably don't know. All right, so I'm gonna show you something. Terrence Crawford is 100% correct about Floyd Mayweather. 100% correct. Okay, I'm gonna show you something. And again, the best boxer in our era is Terrence Crawford. I want to show you guys something because the only ways to show it's not to just talk. Okay. All right now. Okay. So this is Roy Jones Jr.'s opponents, okay? Some of the guys in blue, they are world champions. Okay. So Roy Jones Jr. fought Bernard Hopkins when he was the executioner. He was a little green around the gills. You know, Bernard lost his very first fight in his career. Bernard Hopkins is not only a Hall of Famer, but he's all-time great because this guy broke the record for the oldest living world champion ever. Plus, he broke the record for the oldest living lightweight world champion. So he beat back Archie Moore. He beat Archie Moore's record. Okay? Okay. Tolani Malenko was a world champion, a good world champion at that. And Roy Jones Jr. beat his ass. Thomas Tate was a good world champion as well. But the other one is James Toney. Now, James Toney was the IBF super middleweight champion. He was considered the best IBF world champion at the time. And James Toney beat Michael Nunn to become the IBF super middleweight world champion. Now, in that division at the same time were champions such as Chris Eubank Jr. We also had Nigel Benn. We also had at that time, what else did we have at that time? Hold on a second. Let me just see. 1994. Hold on a second. I'm gonna bring it up. Don't worry. Just hold on a second, people. $1994. Right, so you see here, this is 1994. There you go. So the guys who were in that division were Nigel Benn, Chris Eubank Jr. You know that Roy fought Vinny Panzienza a little later. Steve Collins was another guy in that division. Now, Roy never fought Nigel Benn. He never fought Chris Eubank Jr. He never fought Steve Collins. He did fight Vinny Panzienza, right? Now, the thing, you know, there was Michael Nunn in the division as well. He didn't fight Michael Nunn, right? Now, the thing about this is this, right? That he did beat the number one guy, though. He did beat the number one guy in the division. He went on to face these guys here. Let me show you. So after he won the title, he fought Antoine Byrd, who was a southpaw kind of guy. And then he went on to fight Vinny Panzienza. So he did fight Vinny Panzienza. He never was a world champion at that division at the time. But I think Vinny came off of beating some good guys at lightweight. All right. And later on in his career, of course, Vinny Panzienza is now a Hall of Famer, as is James Toney, as is Bernard Hopkins. Vinny Pazienza went on to beat some other very good people. But Vinny Pazienza was not no prominent super middleweight champion. He never became that. And what's very important to understand is Roy did have Nigel Benn and Chris Eubank Jr. and even Steve Collins that he could have faced. And those guys were world champions, right? That never happened. But it's very important to understand that, right? Now, he also went on to face some other world champions, Eric Lucas, Mike McCallum. But Mike McCallum, when he fought Mike McCallum was, he was quite old at the time. It was old Mike McCallum. And just very important to know, Mike McCallum was like, 40 or close to 40, and Roy was like 27 years old. All right. He also fought Montel Griffin, Virgil Hill, another Hall of Famer. That's the guy I was telling you about, Virgil Hill, another Hall of Famer. He also fought Lou Duval, who's a good world champion. Reggie Johnson, who was a good fighter. Very good southpaw fighter, but he really made Reggie look stupid, but he dropped Reggie like a number of times. He also fought Julio Cesar Gonzalez, who's a very good fighter in the era. He also fought, of course, John Ruiz, who beat Evander Holyfield. And then he fought Antonio Tarver, who was his nemesis. Some people thought that he did not win the fight with Antonio Tarver, the first fight, because Antonio Tarver kept on getting him in the corners, teeing off on him. He tried to fight Antonio Tarver again. Antonio Tarver knocked him out. And he went on a series of knockout losses, right? It was after Antonio Tarver, it was Glenn Johnson. James Johnson knocked him out. Rematched Antonio Tarver, lost to him, right? He would go on to face Felix Trinidad. Felix Trinidad would drop him. He would drop Felix Trinidad. Felix Trinidad was never a light heavyweight. But he got a unanimous decision over Felix Trinidad, who was much smaller than him. But still, a Hall of Famer. All right, that's the important point. Tarver's probably going to go into the Boxing Hall of Fame soon enough. Then he fought Joe Calzaghe, and he lost to Joe Calzaghe. He went up to cruiserweight, fought Danny Green for the IBO cruiserweight title. Danny Green knocked him out in round 1. He rematched Bernard Hopkins. Bernard Hopkins beat him. He fought Denis Lebedev. It went 10 rounds. And in the final round of the fight, Lebedev knocked him out. Denis Lebedev, of course, became a world champion at cruiserweight. He went on to face Enzo Maccarinelli. Enzo Maccarinelli later becomes world champion, and Enzo Maccarinelli knocks him out. Okay? So what's the bottom line I'm making here? If you look at Roy Jones Jr., he fought a lot of world champions. He also fought a bunch of Hall of Famers. In fact, if I was to look at it, Bernard Hopkins won, Joe Calzaghe 2. He did lose to Joe, but it is what it is. Felix Trinidad, that's 3. All right. Antonio Tarver is probably going to go into the Boxing Hall of Fame. That's 4. What else we got here? Virgil Hill, that's 5. Mike McCallum, that's 6. Vinny Pazienza, that's 7. James Toney, that's 8. So he's fought 8 Hall of Famers. Now, he didn't win against all of them. He lost to Hall of Famers like, let's see, Tarver, Calzaghe, Hopkins. But he's got to win. He's got to win with some of them, right? So he's lost to 3, right? He's beaten. How many did I say? 8. He's beaten 7 of the 8. Okay, that's not bad. And I think if you look, I think Roy has beaten 29. He's fought, I think, 22 or 23 world champions, and I think he's beaten 18 or 19 of them. So that's exceptional. Okay. Now, here's the thing. That's great. Okay. Floyd Mayweather. I want to show you something. Also went through 5 weight classes. But the difference between Floyd and Roy is this. Oh, by the way, something else to show you about Roy. So Roy Roy fought Bernard Hopkins at middleweight. This was in 1993. Okay. So in 1993, Roy fought Bernard Hopkins. I want to show you something. Okay. So in 1992, the best middleweight champion was Julian Jackson. However, Julian Jackson met up with Gerald McClelland, and Gerald McClelland knocked Julian Jackson out. All right. Roy, in 1993, by the end of 1993, Roy Jones Jr. had become the number one middleweight in the world. Okay. He had fought Bernard Hopkins for the vacant IBF world title. And he had beaten Bernard Hopkins. And that sort of catapults him up. Because Gerald McClelland, even though he beat Julian Jackson, did not get the number one spot. Okay. Now, it would have been cool to see Roy Jones Jr. versus Gerald McClelland. That never happened. Instead, Roy Jones Jr., if I'm not mistaken, fought John David Jackson. Okay. If I'm not mistaken. And did a number of John David Jackson. But the point I'm making is Roy fought one of the best middleweights in the world, which at the time was Bernard Hopkins, even though he wasn't a world champion. And then he also fought James Toney. James Toney was the best super middleweight in the world. So he fought the best middleweight in the world, or one of them, and the best super middleweight in the world. And then he went on to fight light heavyweight, and he fought for okay, so he moved from WBC interim light heavyweight title to WBC light heavyweight title. Okay, he was, for some reason, in 1996. Let's go look at the super middleweight division for a second here. Okay, so James Toney was the best super middleweight champion. Floyd beat James Toney. And then, what am I looking for? I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for the best light heavyweight. Sorry, my bad. Oh, Jesus Christ, man. All right. So if I'm not mistaken here, let me have a look at this again. Yes. So the interim light heavyweight title he won from Mike McCallum. He won the vacant WBC light heavyweight title against Mike McCallum. It was vacant. Okay. So in 1995, Henry Mask was the best light heavyweight in the world, and Virgil Hill was second. All right. Mike McCallum was sixth. And Mike McCallum was stripped of his WBA title or something like that. So anyway, in 1996, Virgil Hill was the best. Then was Roy Jones Jr. Virgil Hill lost to Darius Michael Zewski. Before Roy faced him, actually, Virgil Hill just lost to Darius Michael Zewski, and then Roy Jones Jr. fought him right after. But Virgil Hill was considered in 1996 the best light heavyweight in the world. And then he lost to Darius Michael Zewski. Now, Roy had the interim WBC title, which became the WBC title in 1997, and he fought Montel Griffin, and he lost to Montel Griffin. He immediately rematched Montel Griffin and avenged his loss. Okay? And, but the best light heavyweight in the world at that time wasn't Montel Griffin. It was Darius Michael Zewski, because he beat Virgil Hill, who was once the number one light heavyweight in the world. Now, in 1997, somehow they ranked Roy Jones Jr. ahead of Darius Michael Zewski. I don't know why. Roy would go on to beat Virgil Hill at light heavyweight. And Roy will always say, you know, I had all of these belts and Darius Michael Zewski did not. That's not true. He could have fought Darius Michael Zewski right after he fought Virgil Hill, or in place of Virgil Hill, because Darius Michael Zewski had beaten Virgil Hill. Virgil Hill was coming off of a loss to Darius Michael Zewski. So the logical person that Roy was supposed to face was Darius Michael Zewski. Instead, he faced the loser, which was Virgil Hill. And this is very important to understand. So, though Virgil Hill was a Hall of Famer and all of that, Roy did not fight Darius Michael Zewski. So whenever Roy comes and says, you know, that, you know, whoever it was, I played King of the Hill, I'm willing to challenge myself. Huh? Well, you didn't challenge yourself with Darius Michael Zewski, the guy who you should have faced instead of Virgil Hill. You went and faced Virgil Hill. So that's why Roy is full of shit when he says, you know, I used to play King of the Hill, and, you know, Floyd, you know, he would pick and choose his opponents. Well, you picked and chose Virgil Hill over Darius Michael Zewski, man. You were not willing to make a fight with Darius Michael Zewski. Talking about, oh, I'm not willing to go to Germany and fight the guy in Germany. Bruh. You supposedly are the dude, and Darius Michael Zewski just beat the guy that you're about to face. You can't make this make sense, man. You know what I mean? So that's the thing with Roy Jones Jr. And I know I'm getting bogged down in the details, but I just wanted to let you guys know. So the best fighter in that division wasn't Montel Griffin. It was Darius Michael Zewski. He did not face the number one light heavyweight in the light heavyweight division. He did face the number one guy at middleweight. He did face the number one guy at super middleweight. He did not face the number one guy at light heavyweight. And this is a very important point. He faced everybody, never faced Darius Michael Zewski. And he spent most of his career at light heavyweight. And I'm going to show you another thing. So he was just amassing titles in the meantime, and still would not face Darius Michael Zewski. And that's a dent on his career, because the number one guy was Darius Michael Zewski. You know what I mean? So you could jump high, and he spent a lot. He campaigned at light heavyweight. Never faced Darius Michael Zewski. And then he went up to heavyweight. And instead of facing Lennox Lewis, who was the best, him and Vladimir Klitschko were the best heavyweights in the division. Nope. Instead of facing them guys, he faced the weakest guy in the division. John Ruiz. But the reason was because John Ruiz beat Evander Holyfield, who he was trying to get. So again, Roy was trying to pick an opponent. He's talking about anybody could get it. That's not true, Roy. Because if that was the case, you would have fought Lennox Lewis, the best at the time heavyweight in the heavyweight division. You did not face Lennox Lewis. So, Roy Jones Jr. did not face the best light heavyweight in the division, and he did not face the best heavyweight. He faced the best middleweight, he faced the best super middleweight, but he did not face the best light heavyweight, and he did not face the best heavyweight. Roy has he's a 4-divisional world titleist. He's not able to get a world title in a 5th division. So he went back down and he fought Antonio Tarver. And he got beaten by Antonio Tarver. Antonio Tarver was not the best light heavyweight in the division. But he got himself in a fight with Antonio Tarver. So Antonio Tarver beat him. And he fought Glenn Johnson, who was not the best light heavyweight in the light heavyweight division. He rematched Antonio Tarver, and then he faced a string of fighters. He faced Felix Trinidad, I believe, at light heavyweight. He was having these, shall I say, fucking motherfucker. You fucking motherfucker. He's having this string of fights in which he was sort of, shall I say, doing attractions. It's the best way to put it. So he fought Felix Trinidad, which was a nice little attraction. Felix Trinidad was a name. But Felix Trinidad was by far not the best light heavyweight in the world. He'd go on to face Joe Kawasaki at light heavyweight. Joe Kawasaki was never a light heavyweight. Joe Kawasaki, however, had beaten Bernard Hopkins. Bernard Hopkins was such light heavyweight. Bernard Hopkins was, if I'm not mistaken, a world champion at light heavyweight because he beat Antonio Tarver. So, but Joe Kawasaki, even though he beat Bernard Hopkins, he did not win any world title at light heavyweight. So when Joe Kawasaki faced Roy Jones Jr., would you consider him the best light heavyweight in the world? I don't know. Maybe, because Bernard Hopkins had beaten Tarver. And Tarver was the number 1 light heavyweight in the world. So Kawasaki beating Hopkins made Kawasaki like the number 1 light heavyweight in the world, or at least he beat the number 1 guy. He didn't have any belts to show for it or anything like that. And he fought Roy, and Roy lost. He lost to Joe Kawasaki. Okay? So maybe you could say that he fought a guy who beat the number 1 light heavyweight in the world. We can phrase it like that. But he lost to him. And then he went on to fight Danny Green, Brennan Hopkins again. He fought Danny Green at cruiser, Dennis Lebedev at cruiser. Dennis Lebedev was he world champion at the time? No. So he wasn't the number 1 cruiserweight in the world either. And so Roy has never fought. He fought in 5 different divisions. He has not faced the number 1 fighter in 3 of those 5 divisions. He's only faced the number 1 fighter in 2 of them and beat him. Now he did face, I guess you could argue, Kawasaki was the number 1 light heavyweight. So at light heavyweight, he actually faced the number 1 fighter, but he didn't beat him. Okay. So I know I'm taking a massively long time. Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather was an interesting cat because he faced the number one super featherweight in the world at the time, which was Gennaro Hernandez, who was coming off some highs. He did just lose to Oscar De La Hoya at lightweight. So he moved up to lightweight to fight at lightweight, and he lost to Oscar De La Hoya. So the Gennaro Hernandez was coming off a loss to this Oscar De La Hoya. However, he had beaten a guy who turned out to be a young world champion in Anatoly, a Russian fighter who would later become world champion. He did beat that guy when he went back down to super featherweight. Anyway, and I do believe after that he also beat Azuma Nelson. So he was on a winning streak until he faced Floyd. And Floyd was his last fight of his career, and Floyd beat him. So he was the number one super featherweight. He had a bunch of wins under his belt when he faced Floyd, including the great Azuma Nelson. And as a result of that, Floyd beat the number one super featherweight in the world. But he didn't just do it once. He did it twice. He faced Diego Corrales, who was ranked above him and considered the number one super featherweight in the world, even though Floyd was the WBC champion. Diego Corrales, the way how he was knocking out everybody, the world champions he had knocked out at that time. Floyd ended up facing him. Very important point. Diego Corrales is now in the International Boxing Hall of Fame. He's also a Hall of Famer. So at super featherweight, Floyd fought two of the best super featherweights in the world. And then he went on to face the number one lightweight in the world, in Jose Luis Castillo. At the time, he faced him twice. He'd go up to super lightweight. In the super lightweight division, he was unable to face Costa Tzu, who was the number one super featherweight, the number one super lightweight in the world. Costa Tzu instead faced Ricky Hatton. Floyd faced Arturo Gatti, the second best super lightweight in the world. And he destroyed Arturo Gatti. But the important point is, this is the only division in which Floyd did not face the best fighter, super lightweight. He was supposed to face Ricky Hatton in that division, but Ricky Hatton was not interested in facing Floyd. So Floyd then moved up to welterweight. And then he fought Zab Judah, but Zab Judah was not the best welterweight in the world because he had lost to Carlos Baldomir. So he faced Carlos Baldomir, who was the number one welterweight in the world. So he was able to face the number one welterweight in the world also at welterweight. And people will say, well, Carlos Baldomir was the weakest lineal welterweight champion. Okay, fine, if you think so. He would go up to super welterweight, face Oscar De La Hoya, but Oscar De La Hoya was not the number one super welterweight in the world. He'd come down, face Ricky Hatton. Ricky Hatton was not the number one welterweight in the world because they fought at welterweight, but he was the number one super lightweight in the world that Floyd wanted to face before and getting an opportunity to face. And the thing about Ricky Hatton was he had been a world champion at welterweight, so he knew what it was to move up in weight at welterweight and fight top opposition. Nonetheless, we skipped that, and then he faced Juan Manuel Marquez, was the number one lightweight in the world. So what? Then he faced Shane Mosley, who was the number one welterweight in the world. So here at welterweight, finally, he again faces a number one welterweight in the world, yet a second time. And if that's not enough, he would go on to face Manny Pacquiao, who was the number one, or should I say number two pound for pound, number one welterweight in the world.
available, right? He also faced Miguel Cotto, who was the number one super welterweight in the world. So in every single division, he had faced the number one fighter, but he didn't face the number one fighter once in the welterweight division, where he campaigned mostly. He faced the number one fighter in the welterweight division 3 times. Carlos Baldomero, Shane Mosley, and Manny Pacquiao. Which is insane. He faced the number one super featherweight twice. He faced the number one lightweight twice. Think about what I'm saying. Let it process in your head. You know, for 4 out of the 5 divisions, not to mention how many world champions he faced and beat. Of the 4 out of the 5 divisions that he faced the number one fighter in, you have him beating 3 number one welterweights and 2 number one super welterweights and 2 number one super featherweights. So multiple times he was beating these guys. And in terms of Hall of Famers, which is a good little something, we know that Canelo Alvarez is going into the Boxing Hall of Fame. So that's a done deal. Manny Pacquiao is already in the Boxing Hall of Fame. That's 2. Let's see. Miguel Cotto is already in the Boxing Hall of Fame. That's 3. Shane Mosley in the Boxing Hall of Fame. That's 4. Manuel Marquez is in the Boxing Hall of Fame. That's 5. Oscar De La Hoya is in the Boxing Hall of Fame. That's 6. Zab will be there. That was probably 7. Jerry Krause is there. That's 8. That's 8. So Floyd's already has 8 guys that are definitely, if they're not in the Boxing Hall of Fame, they're going to be in the Boxing Hall of Fame. You know? So amazing it is. So a lot of people do not recognize how much, and remember, Floyd beat, not just faced, but beat 22 world champions, I believe it is. 22 or 23 world champions, which is incredibly crazy. Roy faced 22, 23 champions, but he did not beat all of them, you know. So this is what makes Floyd Mayweather so special. This is what separates him from Roy Jones Jr. You know, who Roy, the career that Floyd had is what Roy wanted, and he's somewhat bitter about it. But that is natural. That's life. You should really wish the best for your neighbor, though, instead of trying to pull them down. Hopefully, we as Black people will understand that in time to come. But I thought I would share real, recognizing real at this point in time. I am what you need. You guys.